Welcome back. Now, the recently concluded Youth in Oil and Gas Summit 2025 in Walvis Bay brought together about 400 young minds, industry leaders, educators and policymakers to explore how Namibian youth can play a central role in shaping the country's energy future. Now, in its second edition, the summit continues to grow in scale and impact. At the heart of this movement is Justina Erastus, a dynamic young leader and the founder of the Youth in Oil and Gas Summit. Today, we speak to her about the vision behind the summit, this year's key outcomes, and what lies ahead for youth in Namibia's energy transition. Justina, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Nina. Thank you so much for hanging.
Well, first of all, congratulations on a successful second edition, of the summit. To start with, talk to us about what inspired you to create this Youth in Oil and Gas Summit in the first place.
Thank you so much. I think what really inspired us to come up and, have a platform that really represents young people is really representation and access into the oil and gas industry. We recognize how access and having a platform that speaks for the youth and represents the youth is so vital. So it also being strategically held in Walvis Bay is also just another reason. And then, young people oftentimes maybe never really find themselves in the room that really makes the big decisions. And so we really just wanted to help government also, help them hear, what our plights are. And so we decided, let's come up with something that is youth, for the youth, by the youth, and let's speak about the different opportunities available in the oil and gas industry. Let's call government, let's call the private sector, let's call the IOCs, the international oil companies, as well as our own national oil companies, and let's just have discussion and see what the future holds for young people in the sector.
Awesome. And this year's theme was drilling into the future. So what does that message mean to you, of course, personally first, and what do you hope it sparked in the young people who attended?
So drilling into the future is it's wordplay, it's actual drilling offshore operations, but it's also wordplay in the sense that it's also a call to action to young people to really push for opportunities, for them to not just be spectators, but active partakers in the oil and gas sector. It's really a call to action to young people to take up space, whether they are coming on as entrepreneurs, whether they're doing upskilling in their current future, and empowering Namibia's next generation in the oil and gas revolution is really a call to action. And we're very excited about, the third edition and the fact that young people can now, for the third edition, contribute to what the next theme is going to be.
Now, from fireside chats to scholarship presentations and technical panels, the program really was jam-packed. And what do you feel were some of the most powerful or memorable moments from the 2 days?
I would say that being honored to have the presence of the chairman of the African Energy Chamber, Mr. NJ Ayuk. I think that was such a beautiful highlight. Having our governor, Honorable Natalia Kwakoses, deliver the keynote address. Having the head of Upstream Petroleum Unit, Honorable Cornelia Shilunga, also deliver an address. That was such a highlight. That was such a beautiful, just answer to our request that yes, the government is listening and they're interested in what we have to say. Also, Ms. Nilian Mulemi, CEO of Petrofund, also coming and announcing, making beautiful announcements. Those were some of the highlights from our welcoming ceremonies, but also really having young people actively ask questions and engage in the panel discussions, in the fireside chats. The way they were asking the questions, it really showed that they weren't lost. They understood the conversation. The questions were relevant. That also stood out. And then the fact that young people could be in the same room and ask questions and engage with these industry leaders, that was a beautiful highlight.
I understand there were also youth-led service providers that played key roles throughout the event. How intentional was that decision, and what message do you think it sends about, youth capacity in Namibia?
Oh, that was a beautiful highlight. The fact that we decided that we could have gone with, more what advanced service providers, but we decided to give the young service providers a chance. It really spoke to how we didn't just want to walk the walk, we actually wanted to talk the talk, We didn't just want to say things and not do the opposite. So 90%, if not 95% of our service providers were young, Black Namibian service providers from the catering, from the audiovisual and sound team, from the staging team, across the room. It was just young business people. And it was beautiful for all of us to come together and to work on this project. And the fact that we were all young, we understood, we had this one language that we all spoke, right? And it was just creativity across the board. And I think it really speaks to how intentional this platform seeks to be, especially with empowering young people, whether business people, or students or young professionals. It really speaks to how intentional we seek to be, especially with empowering the Namibian child. Yeah.
A major announcement that came from the summit was the partnership with Petrofund for the 2026 edition. So what can you tell us about what's in store for the next edition?
So that was incredibly exciting. It was really exciting to have Mrs. Nilian Wilemi go on stage and announce the 2026 scholarship, and also endorse the third edition, which means the third edition, the planning is already rolling. But it's very exciting to know that about 80 or 90 young Namibians are about to receive the opportunity of a lifetime for them to go and specialize in oil and gas careers across the world. And I think for Petrofund to then also launch a digital CV, to make it easy for young people to then submit their CVs, and already speeding up the process of employment, that was also a beautiful highlight. I think this is exactly why we established the platform, so that we can meet with the right stakeholders and then collaborate and ultimately help the Namibian child find their place in the oil and gas industry. And I really would like to implore other young Namibians from agricultural backgrounds, from engineering backgrounds, from medical backgrounds, to really come up with a platform that speaks to their people and then find the right stakeholders to then empower them. I really hope that the summit is a catalyst for every young Namibian to find whatever they're passionate about and then find the right stakeholders in government, in private, and then empower the community. Yeah, so that Petrofund announcement is such a highlight, and I would really implore everyone who's watching and listening to really look up Petrofund, the 2026 launch of their digital CV, and also the 2026 scholarship that is now open.
Fantastic. Well, Justina, just your final remarks this evening?
Thank you so much to all our sponsors, all our endorsers, especially the Namibian youth who showed up. Thank you so much for your support. The summit would not exist without your help, without your collaboration. We do not exist in silos. We do not operate in silos. Our power is truly in collaboration. Thank you to the government for their support. Thank you to also just international companies for showing interest, right, for endorsing us and for using your companies as a vehicle to then take the summit globally, exposing then the Namibian child to the global market. Final remarks, I would just like to call on young people to take a keen interest into the oil and gas sector. Research it, look up local content, find out how your small business can participate. You don't have to be a specialist geophysicist. You can just be an entrepreneur, or you can be somebody with HR or whatever it is. Find your passion and then capitalize on that.
Justina, thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us this evening, and all the best with, putting together the 2026 summit, and we hope you go from strength to strength.
Thank you so much, Nina. Have a lovely evening.
That was Justina Erastus, a young Namibian lady who's also the founder